Welcome to Finding Focus, which is a channel which we are building a game from scratch using Love 2D and Lua. And we are building a top-down adventure game in the vein of Link's Awakening. But it is a game based on the book The Name of the Wind. Sorry guys, I'm spacing it today. I have not much energy, and I had to take a nap when I got home from work so that I'd be alive to stream. But let's get started here. Yesterday we did a we got the entity system working for our character for the animation changes. So if you see these index 1, 2, 3, and 4 values, those are keeping track of the latest input. Now, I'm noticing a problem, but we're going to be tackling that today, which is the last input is kind of overriding what animation we're going to be seeing. So the idea is if we hold right, then tap left, that left will overwrite the right. But it gets messed up when we have 3 inputs. Because see these 3 inputs, he's kind of, it depends on what input was third, but see like that. We shouldn't be walking left and facing down like that, but today we're going to be working on walking diagonally, and hopefully we can add some functionality where if more than one thing is held down, it overwrites with the correct thing. Do I like iced tea, the wrapper, or the tasty drink? I like iced tea, yeah. And dude, one of my pet peeves is going to a restaurant or somewhere that says, like, I'll say, give me tea, and they say sweet or unsweet. It's like, did I say sweet tea? Like, tea is not sweet. If you want to add sweet to it, I'll say sweet tea. Anyways, let's get going here. Okay. So, we've got a player walk state. And this is where we are currently doing our X and Y updates. So this is how our character is actually moving. Which right now, it's moving based on the direction, which isn't what we want to do. So we want to move based on the input, but we want to check if multiple inputs are held, because it's like, in a way, this is good because with this mode, you can't, we're not going to be giving us a right velocity and a left velocity. And if you hold left and right, those two are negating, and then we don't know what to render. It's only applying one velocity based on our direction. So I like that take on it, but we've got 4 more directions than this, right? So we can't be doing this. We'd have to either add our diagonal movements and then add those as directions, which is technically viable, because then we can, and the thing is, our direction right now, I wonder where we change our direction here. We just change our direction on whatever button is down. So this isn't so great, because depending on the order of operations, you know, down will always have precedence over everything else, which is what we saw, which when we held 3 buttons, the down was overriding the left and right. So get the black iced tea from Dutch Bros. Oh dude, I love Dutch Bros. I'll try that. Black iced tea, yeah, plain. Thanks for the rec, dude. I'm drinking some black coffee here, but iced. This is a cup from Name of the Wind, actually. So this is from the pub where they play music, the Aeolian. So this is my streaming drink cup that I use while we're making the game. Okay, let's do some work. Yeah, I do like that mug. I hand wash it only because I don't want anything to fade on it, you know. Okay, so we don't want to do, and the thing is, this direction is only used to change our velocities. So if we're not using it to change our velocities, we don't really need it. I mean, it's also used to change our state to idle if nothing is pressed. So we want to keep that in mind, but I think we're just gonna start from scratch and see where that gets us. So the first thing we want to do is check for left or right input, right? So instead of just saying, hey, if left is down, give us a negative velocity, I think what we first want to do is check for multiple inputs, because after we confirm that multiple inputs are not happening, then we know what velocity to add and everything. So the one that gets tricky with this is if all 4 are held down, or if all 3 or 3 different directions are held down. I don't know if we want to do anything if 3 directions are held down. I feel like we kind of want to make it easier on ourselves and just ignore if 3 are held down, because you shouldn't be giving 3 inputs. Just shouldn't do anything, right? Because it's only walk up, down, left, right, or diagonal. So that's a decision we have to make. I guess we'll do some testing and see what that might look like. So maybe we'll just start at the bare bones, get left, right, up, and down working, and then worry about multiple inputs up to 3 and 4 inputs held at once. So let's get started here. We're gonna check if our keyboard dot is down and the key that is down is left. And if so, then we're gonna modify our self.playersx by self.playerx, and we also have a field which we're gonna subtract our self.player walk speed. Now at the moment, our walk speed, I believe, is 1. We can check that by going to our player class, seeing when we instantiate our player. Actually, this is our player class. We need to go to our play state, see where we get our player, and our walk speed is from our entity defs, actually. So we can just hop over to our entity defs and see that our walk speed is a constant of player walk speed. So if we hop to our constants, we can see that our walk speed is in fact 1. Okay, so let's go back to our walk state and let's just see if we're walking left by holding left now. Nothing else should work except for the animations based on the last inputs, but walking left will actually move us left. So that's good. We've got to do this for all our directions, and then we can worry about getting clever with it to handle those multiple inputs. And today's probably going to be a shorter stream because I'm just sleepy and I shouldn't be programming too long. Yesterday I couldn't even keep my eyes open when I was streaming. I was like really feeling it. But we'll try to get, I'm hoping if we can get diagonal walking and we can also get scene transitions back, then we're back to where we were like 2 episodes ago, just now with the new entity system, and then we'll be in a good spot moving forward. So we know that for our up and down, we want to modify our Y position. So what we can do is highlight those, and we substitute substitute dot X with dot Y, and then our up will be adding a player walk speed, and our down will be adding a player walk speed, and our up will be subtracting, because Lua and Love2D, or just Love2D, indexes at the top left being 0, 0. So 0, 0 top left, positive on the x-axis is going right, positive on the y-axis is moving down. So that's why we've got those. So now we should have player walk speed based on inputs. So that's good, but check out if we hold left and right at the same time here. Oh, and we're not going to idle, so we've got to go back to idle. So right there, if we hold them both, what's happening is we're getting a positive velocity and a negative velocity, and it's canceling out. So let's add our idle. We could add. I don't want to put all these in an else if block, because then left will have precedence over the rest. So I think we're just going to get nasty with it and do... and actually, you know what? There is a smarter way we can do this. We've got a global table called inputs held that we wrote yesterday. And we can just ask if the number of inputs of our... It's called input list, and it holds the string value of every direction that we are currently pressing, and we can say if the number of that list is equal to 0, that means we're not holding any buttons. Then what we can actually do is self.player. How do we change our state here? We would say, do we do change animation on our player? Change animation to become idle. Now it's a player change state. Okay. So the tricky thing too with this is, let's see what happens. Okay, so it looks like our idle state is just facing down. So like if we're walking up, idle state is just facing down. We want idle state to remember the last input held, so it just kind of doesn't update anymore, right? So like, I guess this one was fixing it because we had the player direction. So why don't we go ahead and just, let me take a look at our player idle state and see if we do anything regarding the player direction. We don't really do, all we do in our player idle state is wait for an input to go to walk. Yeah, I don't know if we should put a contradicting inputs in our player idle state. That's a decent idea, but I mean, I see where I'm coming from with that, but I want to do something different. I'm curious how we were maintaining the same direction in our old code here by just changing the idle state. Let me just try something here. I'm going to comment out what we just wrote, and I want to turn back on our old code, and let me see if this is giving us the same problem of defaulting to a down animation. No. Okay. So why is that one better than what we do? It's changing our direction. So I guess let me see in our player class if are we changing our animation sprite based on direction? Let me grep string for a direction and we'll see. Okay, so this makes sense. Our entity defs initialize us as down. Entity walk state. if entity direction is down. Okay, we don't, that's our entity walk state. We're not using that at the moment. Player walk state, that's what we just turned back on. Okay, let me just take a look at our entity defs. Okay, well, what we have to do is not change our state to idle, because idle isn't one state. We've got idle left, idle right, idle up, idle down, and these are our default frames. So on our side frames, that's us walking tall. So let's make sure we've got a passing to our correct idle. Okay, so here's what we'll do is we'll go back to our walk state. We'll turn off this code again, the old code. And what we'll do is turn on our new code. And what we'll do is we'll change this. We'll actually we'll take the string idle dash or idle hyphen, and what we'll do is concatenate that with a stringified version of, and our input list, I believe, has walk left and walk right, not just left or right. So that kind of screws us, because we were about to use our input list to feed which idle state to change it to. But actually, if input list is 0, that won't have any effect. So I'm kind of thinking we need a value that is just let me think about this, because we're trying to change the idle state depending on what button was, or depending on which direction we were just moving. So let's do this direction. We'll set our direction, and then we'll just instead of modifying our X and Y location based on our direction, we'll actually just modify our idle animation based on what our direction is. So since that old code was working with the direction and the idle state, this should function similar. So we'll give us the dot direction of whatever value our input is. So aka Bob, I was doing, and I've been still trying to figure out how to get chat, basically how to write programs to use the chat API from Twitch to do different stuff on screen. It's called tmi.js, which is Twitch messaging interface.javascript. So that's what I'm doing for the bot here. So like we can do commands, and that's what I'm doing for the custom commands and everything. So I've got that working, but I'm working on getting, like, I want when you come in, for example, to chat, you get a little character on screen, like a little tiny stick man that says aka Bob, and either when you chat he'll say your message and we get rid of the chat up there, or he just pops up on screen if you're an active chatter. So like you'll have a little avatar on screen if you're an active chatter. That is just really hard to figure out, and I've been working. It's like I'm learning a lot about more programming stuff, because we're having to use tmi.js in order to create a WebSocket so that we can host a an HTTP server on our local machine, and that gets fed into OBS so that we can actually see it on screen. But in order to do that, there's a lot. I had a point where I got anything anyone typed in chat was populating on HTML, which was cool. And then I changed some shit and it broke. But this morning I woke up a little early before work, which is probably why I'm so tired, and I figured out how to get the Finding Focus font in HTML and get the spacing right. So like I still haven't got Twitch chat into an HTML file, but we're getting there. And then as soon as I pipe the messages and usernames, I just have to kind of add some more logic of like, you know, if whoever's you're, you know, like every 5 minutes check to see if there's any inactive users, take them out or whatever. So like if you haven't chatted in 10 minutes or something, your stick guy won't be on there. Maybe that'll encourage some more chatting too. I don't know, but I'm excited to get that working. It's just not working at the moment, so it is in the works. I'm getting there. Okay, so now we're modifying our direction based on, dude, it's a lot. It's a lot. Like, there's a reason why I can't find any good tutorials on it online, and it's because it's just like, it's tough and it's ridiculous to try to explain to somebody. So it just is what it is. And the tutorials I do find, they're like a 50-minute tutorial doing something like not as interesting that I want to do. So it's like, it's hard to find. It's hard to find a tutorial on trying to do what I'm trying to do. Okay, now we've got. Now what we can do is we're gonna change the state of our player. If our input list is 0, meaning we're not holding any buttons, we're gonna change the idle, but the idle animation we're gonna change to is gonna be an idle hyphen concatenated with a string version of our self.player.direction. So that should give us, if our last direction was left, then we're gonna change our state to idle left if input list is 0. Let's see if that does it. Oh no. It didn't like that. Change state. And you know what? It's because idle is a state, not an animation. We're trying to change the animation. So but the thing is, we do want to change the state to idle, but we want to also change our animation. So I think what we want is, we do want to change this to idle. Oh no. Oh no! We're crapping out! Crap. Well, I hope we come back on. Oh shit. Okay, well, stream just crashed. Let's hope we're back up. Okay. Okay. Now, there is one other thing we haven't added from our old spot. We are... Yeah, dude, aka Bob, I just crashed again. I crashed for 30 seconds or so, and then it probably made 2 different streams on my channel, so that really bugs me. If I get to be affiliate at some point, I can upload the solid recordings here on OBS onto my channel, and then it'll be up on there, but I'm not affiliate just yet, so I think it might have split this stream into 2 videos. Okay, so check this out. Like, when we're just scooting down just a tiny bit, he's not moving, or he's not animating. And we had a fix for that. Like, we made a default first frame. Man, this is tough. I don't know how to fix this with our new setup. Because what we need to do is if our idle, well, I guess if our idle, okay, this is wrong. This is wrong. What do we want to do? We haven't even got to diagonal movement yet. But I guess we want to make sure, because right now this animation, when we change this animation, we're going to idle whatever last direction we are, but whatever last direction we are is waiting for a interval so that it can update and it can actually animate its animations. But what that means is that we don't actually have it essentially means that if we like tippy tap very tiny, his arms don't move unless it's in that animation interval time. So like it only works the way we want it to half the time, like that. When he scoots down without moving his arms, that's the interval time that is messing up. So I'm kind of curious how we ended up fixing that. We did it manually. I remember we did it manually in the sense of we kind of flushed our default frame. So I guess what we can do, we don't really have if we take a look at our animation class, I think we have, okay, we've got an animation update. So this is why it alternates between working and not working, is because this interval timer here. So I wonder if we have, I wonder if we can pass a looping, because the idea is, oh god, it's tough. It's tough because as we're holding it, we need this timer to be incrementing, but we need it to be reset upon, oh, maybe that's just all we do, is we flush our timer back to 0 upon, yeah, maybe we flush our timer back to 0 as soon as we go into idle state. But then we have to make sure that as soon as we press the button, we change to the next frame. So we would get our current frame plus 1. So if we do those two things, I think we might fix our little problem here. Let's see if that's the case. And we'll go. Man, it's getting messy though. I mean, it just gets messy. I know there's a better way to do it. So we're gonna change our animation. And what change animation does, let's make sure, and I think since our player's an entity, we have change animation here. And it's just gonna return the current animation. Okay, so this is the problem, because current animation is the animation in the midst of switching it. So if we change animation, we want to also update our animation. And our animation is man, this is tough because everything is so abstracted away. Like our animations field is a table of animations returned from our entity defs, but then updated over time. So we should be able to go into our animation dot not not dot frames, but dot current frame. I want to say we can go into our dot animations, dot current frame, and just change that, as well as timer. So that would mean upon a releasing of all the keys, our timer would flush, so that by the time we next press it, we'd have to add in, hey, give our current frame itself +1, so that if we tap, he'll kind of go beep, 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 beep. So like every time you tap it, it'll change to that first frame. So that's the increment of the current frame that we need to do, but we also need to flush the timer upon releasing, so that it doesn't for 3 seconds work and then 3 seconds off, or whatever the interval was. So I think we can do something like that. It's just a tricky little problem. So when we're gonna change our animation to the idle, but we're also gonna change the animations dot current frame, dot timer to be 0. Let's see if that does anything for us. See, it's still alternating whether or not he turns into a starfish or not. Yeah, we want every frame press to be him shimmying. So we'll make sure that we actually manually adjust. But the thing is, we're not even... Oh my god, okay. Let me just try it for down first. We'll try if love.keyboard dot is down. Or was pressed. If it was pressed on the last frame, then we're going to go ahead and change our self.player dot animations dot current frame to be itself +1. So self.player dot animations dot current frame +1. Let's see if that works for pressing down. And then if it works for down, we might just go ahead and implement it, or we might... Yeah, it still doesn't work. Okay. So what's tough is that we want to change it on that instant. The thing is, we need in our down animation, in our down idle animation, whatever that default frame is for our idle down, we want that to be the opposite frame that gets initted upon an animation walk down. So we'll just make sure that those frames aren't the same frame here in our entity defs, and that should make it okay. So if we look at our walk down, it goes frame 1, 2, and then our idle down is frame 1. So if our idle is the opposite frame of our walk, then maybe it'll fix that jitter. Yes. Oh, and then, okay, so it literally just alternated the jitter. So now we do need to reset our current frame of our walk animation upon letting go, I believe. Yeah. So let's see if we change our self.player.current animation. No, it's animations table at our timer. We're gonna reset to 0. So we're gonna reset that to 0 if we let go, and we're still not doing it. And I think it's because, actually, I don't know why. I thought that would be it, honestly. Let's make sure we're understanding this. Dude, we're not gonna get diagonal walking figured out today. I thought we were. Let's see. We'll see how far I can get. So our player's an entity, and our entity gets animations. Now those animations are populated with animation classes given our animated defs from our entity defs. So what's tricky about that is we only do that once upon the init, and then it keeps track. It keeps track of those things. Oh, and it's not, well, yeah, let's look at our animation class. We do have a dot timer. Animation class, and it's a dot timer. It gets initialized to 1, but oh, and maybe we call this animation refresh, because it would reset our current frame. Yeah, let's call this animation refresh upon letting go. So this is in our animation class, which is in our animations.animations field of our entity, which would be our player. So player.animations : refresh, right? Yeah. So an animation object should have this function called refresh, which resets the current frame and the timer. So let's do that, and maybe that'll be it. So we're gonna run self.player, and maybe we do this before we change our animation, and actually let's try it after and then see if it works, and then we'll move it. So self.player : dot animations : refresh, and let's see. Refresh is a nil value. What did we mess up? Animation class. It's literally called refresh. So our dot animations isn't working as expected. Let's try moving it before we change our animation and see. No, we're still refreshing as a nil value. Player walk state. Man. Okay. Yeah, our dot animations is our animation object. I don't know what to tell you other than that. And we're calling the refresh function on it, which takes in no arguments. So why would refresh index a nil value is beyond me. Let's just try to call it on the player and see. Nope, doesn't like that either. So what's happening right now is we don't change to an idle state. But if we change to an idle state, we don't have the normalized vector diagonal walking, but we do got diagonal walking, so that's fun. Yeah, in some ways, how we did it, hard coding everything by frame, was easier. It's just because I'm not so used to passing all this information through different entity states and everything. I've never done that before, so it's just a little more confusing. It's a little more powerful and a little more confusing. But what's really confusing to me is that, and you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's change our state to idle if nothing is held down, we're going to change our state to idle and just see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so like our idle is retaining our last position, which is good, but it's only alternating. See, we want that little step, step, step every time we press it, not only on the intervals that it's not active for. So we need to, maybe we need to refresh. No, we can't. If we refresh our animations upon pressing it, it'll undo any animation progression that we're doing. So we do need to figure out a way how to refresh the animation upon letting go. Let's try again. It's animations with an S, :refresh. And let's just double check that that doesn't require any other. It literally you just call it with a :refresh. So that should work, but we crash. We crash on player walk state 29, which is right here. Now, we take a look at our play state. We are initializing our guy, and this is where our dot animations is getting made with our dot animations entity def values. So we should have a dot animations, which should have a :refresh. I'm curious if we just run like once this guy's made, can we say self.player.animations refresh right here? And would it crash right away? It does. So I really can't, there's a way to call this refresh function that I'm not understanding. And it's called on the class itself, not the, yeah, I mean, I would think that the dot animations would be how to do it. Call it on the dot animations, but that is not the case. Now our player, oh, you know what? No, yeah, our player is becoming self-player, so I wonder if we just try to do player animations refresh. Yeah, still. Oh, but I guess because we didn't have access to the parameter. Because now we crash and it says can't call refresh. Okay. I don't know why we can't call that function. And that means that if we try to modify our table there, it doesn't do anything as well, because we go to .player.animations, which has a .timer field we're trying to reset to 0, and if we try to assign it there, it doesn't fix our problem. We should be stepping every time we do it, not just in the interval. So what is going on? Our animations, I guess, we're not updating. I guess if we update our walk state, and our walk state has access to our player, we should be able to change that timer within our animations field. I'm not sure why it's giving us so many problems. I'm curious if we go out into our play state. Let's see when we're updating, and maybe it's in our scene actually. We render our player here, okay. We update our player in our scene, which means depending on the state is what we're resetting. So maybe since we're trying to reset it when it switches, yeah, maybe that's the problem. Well, I still don't get why refresh wouldn't work, but once we change our state to idle, we're no longer in our player walk state. So anything we do after this line wouldn't update. So maybe we just have to go in our change state idle, which would be our player it would be our player idle state, and we can ask if our input list is 0, meaning we aren't pressing anything, then we're gonna try to let's try to go into our animations table .timer and reset that bad boy to 0. And okay, we don't have access to player in our player idle state, so we don't pass it in. We pass it into a walk state. And a player walk state. Okay. We can either, man, I don't know. We could add our player, but I guess it depends what we want our player idle state to do. Okay, so what if before we change our player state to idle, we just say our player animations .timer gets 0? Are we allowed to do that? Yeah, we are. It still doesn't fix our problem. Like we should be stepping every time we press a button, but it's only doing it every other interval, which is just baffling to me because unless this isn't resetting our timer. Let's go ahead and try to print this up in our render here. We'll try to love.graphics.print, and we'll try to print out our timer, and we'll concatenate that with a stringified version of our self.player.animations.timer. Now, if this isn't updating to 1, 2, or yeah, counting from 1 to 3 whenever we're walking, and then I'm assuming it remains at whatever number when we're not walking, but that's part of us trying to debug it here. Let's see. Our timer is just not even... Okay, so what we're trying to index isn't the right value, so that's why our logic isn't working. But how do we access the timer in our animation that belongs to our player, if not .animations.timer? Because in our play state, we are given a player instantiation, and we give it .animations, which in our entity defs is a table of different animations as well as frames, intervals, texture. Now there is no .timer within this, but once we actually call the animation function, and not a function, class, we actually instantiate all those with their own timers, which is where do we do that? Because we have our player here, then is it in our walk state? No. Let me see if we grep string for animation, we should be able to find it. Right here. It's in our entity. Okay. So our entity then gets assigned .animations, which is where my player .animation, self.player.animations, trying to index the timer of our animation. And actually there isn't a timer in this declaration, but if we take a look at our animation class, which we're actually assigning into this table, our animation class has the dot timer. So I'm curious if we put dot frames, if it gives the current frame, but it's not giving us the correct timer because our timer would and should be updating if we're in whatever animation state. So let's try to put a dot frames here and see if that's going to give us a number that's changing. No, it's just nil. So we are just not understanding how to print up this animation, any data, how to access any of the data in our animation table. Which is a little confusing to me because I thought I knew exactly what it was doing. So our dot animations becomes a bunch of these keys and what's so weird is that our dot frames doesn't even return anything. And you know what? We might have to index into the key. We might have to, yeah, I think we have to index into the key and then into the field. So if we know which animation we're on, we can index into the frame of that animation. So maybe that's it. So instead of .animations.frames, it'd be animations at the key of, let's say it's walk down, and then .frames. Let's see if that, no, that is just a weird value. Let's take a look at our entity defs, and our entity defs should have, yeah, it should be, see, I'm trying to go into our walk down field and print up the frame. Oh, it's a frame. Okay, so frames is a table, so we can't just print up multiple values. So we'd have to say frames at a specific index. Okay, so does that mean we can say that we have access to the dot timer of this field now? Yes, we do. Okay, so here is the problem, which is when we're walking down, see our timer, and actually our timer is, it does look to be starting, no, it isn't starting at 0. It counts up, see how it counts up to that interval, to 0.3, and then it shifts. So that's when our animation gets broke, because we're trying to have him do the shuffle step every time we press, and the timer isn't getting flushed. So now that we know how to access our timer, we should be able to go, and I think it is here in our player walk state, where we want to take player walk state, where are we? If no inputs are being held, we want to flush the timer, and it's not the timer, it's not dot timer. We have to go into the key, the appropriate key, which is what? It is whatever our last direction is, but walking, because it, let me think. Yeah, it's our walk timer. We have to flush our walk timers. So if we pass in walk down, and you know what? I think this is why we couldn't call refresh either, because now we should be able to call refresh on our walk down, and now maybe it'll be fixed. It looks fixed. It looks fixed, because if you look at the timer, it doesn't go up past 0.0 because we're not holding it long enough. So we do get that little shuffle step, but it's only for down. If we go right, we still get that alternating. So what we do need to do is just refresh all our walking animations. Depending on if we let go of our inputs, we're going to reset all those timers back to 0, change our state to idle, and then now we should have the shuffle steps back. Yes. Okay. Oh, left is not working at all. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, what we need to do for left here is go into our entity defs and make sure our idle left, which is a frame 5, is different than the first frame of our walk left, which it isn't. So we'll just switch our idle left to frame 6, and then we'll check our walk up, which is frames 3 and 4. Make sure our idle up is a different frame than that first frame so that we get the shuffle step. And our down we already did for, so we should be good now. Nice. Okay, now we can handle multiple inputs. Cool, yes. Okay, we got shuffle step back, everyone. But if we hold conflicting inputs, we're still negating, we're giving us positive velocity and negative velocity, and it still thinks we're in a animation state. So we should not be updating our velocity, and we should be changing our state to idle if two contradicting inputs are being held. So what we'll do is up in here, this is all of our directional X and Y position updates, but we need to do some multiple input handling. And what we'll do is we'll check for those direct contradictory input first. So we'll say love.graphics is down left and right. So we'll say left and love.graphics is down right. Now we want to do two things if this is the case, and we actually want to probably put this, we might want to put this up here so that, yeah, and you know what, let's do that. Let's actually do it here. If left is down, then if right is down, then we know we need to not update our position. So we would say love.keyboard is down right. Now, in this little block here, that is where our contradictory stuff is. So we would say otherwise, meaning just left is down, or left and another direction is down, or just left. Yeah, if left and right is down, we don't want to do anything. Now, let's see if that changes. Let's see if we stop updating our animation state if we have both left and right being held. It doesn't, it just defers us to right. So maybe we have to add this here too. If love.keyboard is down left, then we also want to do nothing because right was overriding. And we update our position based on, as long as we're not holding that contradictory direction, and we'll get our line there. Okay, so we're still in an animation, and I think that's because our buttons are held down. So if both of them are held down, maybe we can say self.player change state gets idle, and then we'll do that upon this other one as well, and we'll see. Okay, so what's happening here is our idle state is waiting for anything to be pressed, and then anytime anything is pressed in idle state, it turns us into a walk state, which means he dances. So this isn't the way to do it. What we want to do is, we don't want to change our state, we just want to change our animation to be the correct the correct default idle animation. Hey, first time chatter. Hey, welcome. We're making a little game here. I'm not going to attempt to say your name because I know what I'm going to emphasize, and it wouldn't be family friendly. So, let's change our animation here. And we'll change the animation to we'll default it to whatever our first direction was. So it'll be idle right in this case, and it'll be idle left in this case, and let's see if that does it. Nice. So now we're holding, if you could see our keylogger in the bottom right there, we're holding two directions, and we are, and it looks like we're defaulting to right. So I think if right is down, then left is pressed, we want idle left? No. Let's see. Right is pressed, then left. We want to just stop. Is that right? So if left is down and then right is down, and actually this isn't how the game works. It doesn't ask it in this order. It just runs it in vertical order. So this is just getting the precedence of whatever order we're in. So we have to actually do this based on direction. So we'll say we want to change the animation to idle plus whatever our direction is. So we'll concatenate our idle string with the direction that we are currently facing, which means we would just stop. So we can say self.player.direction, and maybe that'll be it. We'll change this one as well, change our idle animation to be our current direction, idle state, or idle animation. So let's see. We are missing a parentheses here and a parentheses here. See, we shouldn't be, if we stop it, see how we're crouched when we stop it? I think what that means is our walk left, we want our, for our walk left on our entity defs, we want to make sure that our idle left is actually frame 5 and our walk left is actually, wait, let me see this. Idle left is frame 5, which should be standing link or standing both. And then let's switch these where this is 6 and this is 5, but actually that'll mess up our animation, I think. Well, maybe not. Okay, cool. So now we default to standing, and we still got the 2-step, which is good. And then if we hold multiple inputs, at least for left and right, we are assigning the correct animation for the idle state. Now, if we have 3 inputs, see how the animation state is not updating. And that's because we're changing. Actually, I don't know why that is. Oh lordy. Okay, well, let's continue going on here. We'll do this for our up and down as well. So we're going to check for that direct contradictory input for up, which is going to be down. Then we're going to, if we are down, then we're going to change our player animation to be an idle animation, but idle hyphen concatenation with our direction. So just string, and then we say self.player direction. And then we make sure we give ourselves that last parentheses. And we want the same thing to be if this contradictory input is held, love.keyboard.isDown up. It always cracks me up if up is down. Then set our idle. Okay. And then, and you know what? We can probably, we could and should probably give our player a change animation function, or like change, we can call it like idle animation direction or whatever function, because we're doing the same thing every single time here. So we can just kind of call that as a function. I mean, it's the same thing anyway, either way, but let's see if our up and down is working. No, we're just not getting our down direction isn't working. But that's the only one. Because if I'm holding right and then tap left, he still faces right, which I feel like is almost like pumping the brakes, right? But he faces up when we're walking down. He doesn't do it, he only does it for up. So I think our walk down, well, why would that be happening? If down is down, and then if up is down, we're changing. And maybe it has to do with our direction. Are we assigning our direction for down? Yes, we are, but we are... It should be the same. We've got it... Oh, no, we've got it messed up here. We've got to do the else block here, and this is where we put the direction. And then that should fix our problem. Okay. Nice. Okay, yep. Okay, cool. So we've got two inputs held, fixed. We've got our little stutter step fixed again. We do have diagonal movement, which we still have to normalize our vector on. He looks like he's ice skating. But 3 directions is still weird. So like 3 directions is doing weird stuff. Not exactly sure why it's deferring to idle. I want to say maybe we can do if our inputs held is 3. Oh. If our inputs held is 3, we do something similar, which is we just set our animation to be idle of, and then we have to choose what idle animation. It would be whatever direction of our last input is. So I mean, do we want it to move if we hold in 3 directions? Like maybe we just make it so that we don't update our X position or Y position if 3 directions are held. Or we set the animation if 3 directions are held. I don't know why it's not working at the moment. I guess it kind of makes more sense to enable, even though you shouldn't really play like that, to hold left and right at the same time and then be able to walk up. So We can either add that here as another thing, like else if up is down, then we need to go and default to moving us upwards. That would take care of our upwards, and then as long as we give our direction to be upwards, let's try that and see. We can say else if love.keyboard is down up. That would be our 3 inputs, and we would say that our self.player.direction then would get up. And then we actually want to modify our self.player.y to be equal to self.player.y minus our walk speed. And then we can't forget, otherwise, do our normal walking. So now if we hold left, right, then up, let's hope we get the proper output. So left, right, then up. It's still not animating. It's still not animating, and I think it's because we're changing our animation to be the last direction. So if we do this here, where we also change our animation to whatever our new direction is, which is up, that's actually idle, but we want walk. So if we put our walk state here, now let's see, we've got left and right, then up. We're still not updating our animation. I'm not exactly sure why that's happening. Dude, oh, that was the wrong button. Where did we print our timer? Did we do that in play state? No. Where did we print our timer? Oh lordy, here. Nope. Oh god, here. In our player walk state. Let's just get rid of this real quick because it's bugging me. And then we'll actually get rid of our last inputs because those are kind of annoying now too. Input list is what it is, so we can say input list and check. This is where we're printing it, so we'll just turn that off for now, and we'll see. So yeah, we're just not updating our animation because I think, and I wonder if we print. I wonder if he's in an idle. Oh yeah, I think he would be. Oh, he wouldn't be in an idle state because we're actually updating our position, which we aren't doing in idle state. So the fact that this is wrong, he should change. Yeah, let me see if we hard code this as walk up. If that changes anything. Still doesn't animate. Okay, I don't want to give up and just say it'll only move if you hold 2 or less inputs, but we might be heading that direction because it's not really necessary to handle 3 inputs at once because you can only have 2 directions at once. So maybe we do make that call and just say you can't move. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the right move is here. Because we have the directions correct for playing nicely with 2 inputs, but the second you add a 3rd input, oh wow. Yeah, the second you add a third input, he just goes into T-pose. Why is that happening? Are we printing up the player direction? Yeah, we are. So what's weird is the direction doesn't get updated with the last input held when there's 3 inputs. So that's confusing to me. We should be assigning our direction to be equal to the last input. So maybe instead of assigning our directions here, we assign it based on our last input. So let's try doing that. Instead of doing our directions here, we set our what it's going to look like is like input list, but it is our input list at our index of the number of values in our input list, which is going to be the latest key we held down. So we're going to say that our self.player.direction. Oh, and you know what? We can't do this because our input list is actually a walk left or walk up. I think. Let me see where we do this input list. Yeah, we've got walk up. We could. Okay, because it's not as easy to strip a string to get a value than it is to just pass it in the toString function. So maybe we do change this. But if we change this, what effect does that have? If our position is left, then okay, so it should be as simple as taking all of our walk hyphens and just deleting them. So if we highlight all those and we substitute our walk hyphens, substitute it with nothing, then in our player walk state, we can then assign our direction to become the value at the index of whatever our input list is. But that's assuming. Actually, no. Yeah, that should be okay. Okay, we crash. I think we crashed there because. Well, actually, why? Local anim. Player walk state 91. I don't know why we crashed there. We didn't change anything to our. The only thing I could think of is we're doing some more stuff with our input list that we didn't fix. So if we take a look at our input list and make sure we're not doing anything. Oh, yep. Okay, so this is, yep, we need to go here and change it. We need to change our walk to just be the default direction. Up here, and actually, where was that walk? When we were inserting it, up here at the top. Oh, no. No, our grep string showed us the old version of this. Right? Input list. list, input list. Okay. Yeah, now it's updated. I don't know why we crashed. Our index local anim a nil value. So this, oh lordy. What's player walk state is where it crashed. So our anim now, that means our player didn't have a current animation. Does that mean that we're setting our current animation based on our input list? No. I don't know why we would crash. Was the only difference we changed that input list? Let's go to our player walk state and we'll go to where we did this and we'll take this out and we'll see if that prevents us crashing. No, it does not. So let's see if where we assign those input lists, if we revert that back, it will stop crashing. Okay, so we want to just undo all that. Okay, so we have to figure something different out. But why was that making us crash if our... I would think we would have been able to just give us the same values here. Okay, we got to figure something else out. So right now, we're not setting our direction. We are setting our direction properly, which is weird because we took out all the times we assigned our direction. So we've got to be, what the heck? We've got to be doing that in the entity, which is what's been screwing us up. In our update entity, we actually aren't doing that. So dude, where are we assigning our dot direction? Because I don't see it. Oh, entity walk state is where it is. Okay. But does our... I believe our player walk state doesn't inherit our entity walk state anymore. Yeah, it doesn't. So how are we changing our direction? Oh, we aren't. Yeah, we aren't changing our direction, but our animation is... Okay, we're getting closer. We're getting closer to the problem because our animation isn't set based on our direction, but it is set on these inputs. So if 3 are held down, what's happening? Left and right is held down, and then up is down. So we would move up, but we would want to change our animation to be walk up at this point if our input list is equal to 3 and it's our hashtag input list is equal to 3, then we would want to update we would say dot player dot : change animation. to be a walk up. But why wouldn't we are walking up. I guess I'm curious where we're handling our animation changes at this moment. Let's see if that fixes our 3 inputs held. Okay, that does fix our 3 inputs held for up at least. But where are we doing that otherwise? We just literally do it here in this one big block. Okay, I guess we can just do this then, because we'll leave us a little note, I guess. Well, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory because we ask if the input list is 3, then we're going to go ahead and change our animation, which means if that's up and down, and then there's down and up, and then if our input list is 3, if the number of our input list is equal to 3, then we're going to change our input or our animation to be change animation, and that will now get walked down. And then for the other directions, if our input list is equal to 3, then we want to, this would mean right, oh, and that's not exactly right here. Then let me check something real quick. We shouldn't be able to walk, oh no, it is working. So why is, oh, it's because we're updating, we're going up at this point, so we know we want to be a walk up, and then here we're moving right, so we know if input list is 3, we need to be a walk right. And, okay. Self.player, change animation. This will be a walk right. And then we need the string in there. Walk right. And then our last one is right here, and we say if the number of our input list is equal to 3, then we know we need to change our animation to walk left. So self.player colon change animation gets walk left, and then we need to get our end of string there. Now let's see. Okay, 3 inputs going up gets a walking up animation. 3 inputs down gives a walking down animation. That's jacked. No! Okay. Why would it revert back to facing down after 3 inputs is held? Oh, it's actually doing that for all ups. Let me make sure our entity defs has a walk up is a 3-4 and an idle up is a 4. So why are we idled down once we release? Oh, we changed our, oh, we're no longer doing our correct. We're just always idling down. Okay. Oh, it's because we took out our direction. Okay, we've got to put in our direction back in, and then we're good to go. I think if we're moving left and our self.player.direction gets left, let's see if that fixes, yeah, that fixes left. Okay, so we just need to do that again. But And that has to, I guess that has to do with our entity animation render. It renders it based on what direction it's in. But there's something fishy about that too. I think I'm misunderstanding something in there. Okay, this will be up. And then this one will be down, and then we should be good. Okay, let's see. Okay. Yep. Okay. Okay, then we just need to normalize our vector. Well, let's see. Oh my god. Okay, we're getting the same problem with our 3 inputs held where we're not defaulting to the correct. Okay, what we need to do is just refresh our animation if our 3 inputs are held. But other than that, I think we're good. And then we just have to, and actually if 4 inputs are held, our velocities all negate each other. And it defaults to whatever the last inputted direction is at the idle state. So that's good. We just need to refresh our animation for our 3 input being held. So I think we can say, yeah, I think we can say if this or number input list is equal to 3, then go ahead and refresh those animations, and let's see. Oh lordy. Oh lordy. He is going crazy. I don't like that. Let's just do it. Let's just do it upon the input being pressed here, I guess. Well, that will jack it up also. I mean, I don't know. Do we just say, screw it? If you're holding 3 inputs, you're not gonna get. Or if you're holding 2 conflicting inputs and then jamming the other one, it's just gonna look a little messed up. Or do we try to fix it? Like, it's like, why? No one should be playing like this to see that it's messed up in a weird way. So do we just leave it? Because it works fine if you just play nice. I mean, even holding 3 inputs isn't really playing nice. So do we just leave it? I'm not sure. Let's make note of it. I mean, I'm probably never going to come back to finish it once we're done with today's episode. So we can't just flush it. We can't just refresh our animation because it'll refresh it every single frame and then it just looks jacked. That's how we were fixing it here for our default animation. So I don't know of a fix. Like, we could go, because if we modify our timer or our current frame in here, then if the 3 is still held, then the very next frame it'll still be true, and then it'll modify the frame and then it'll be jacked up still. So I don't know how to fix it. Okay, well, let's try to just get our vector normalization working, and then we'll call it a night. So if we look at our old player class, our entity system player class is now a little shorter than what our player class used to be. But we've got a, what is it called? Vector, normalized vector. So we need, oh God, okay. Vector. We've got a normalized vector Okay, so we need to be modifying our player walk speed by our vector normalization. Oh, this is tough because we are doing this differently now. Okay, and see, our dx and dy is being sent to the same thing, and we're just either subtracting or adding our dx or dy depending on our direction. But let me look at where we normalize our vector down here. So if two inputs are held down, we're gonna half our walk speed, and not half it, we're just gonna root to it. I guess we just do that right before we update our x and y position. So if we give ourselves this normalized vector function in our player walk state, we'll just pop it up here. We've got a normalized vector that takes in a self.player. And we can just call it player. And then we'll say, we don't need these, we just need, all we need it to do is take our players dot walk speed and set it to the square root of 2 divided by 2. So half of root 2. And the math for that we talked about on an older episode, but it's basically just the distance of the hypotenuse leg when you're walking diagonally needs to be shrunk, because instead of a difference of 1, it is actually a 1.4. It's root 2. So we have to cut root 2 in half in order to normalize that distance. So the player we pass in as a parameter to our normalized vector function will take that player's walk speed and turn it into root 2 divided by 2. And since our player walk speed is 1, I think that's why it works. The math works actually perfect like that. So let's, before we update our x position, go ahead and normalize our vector for our player. And this is actually, we actually only want to do this if 2 inputs are held. If we're walking diagonally. So I think we need to have a separate, we can have a separate list here, and we can say if the number of inputs held is equal to 2, meaning we're walking diagonally, then we want to use this normalized vector function. This is my bad. We want to call the normalized vector on our self.player, which will modify its walk speed, but we want to otherwise set our self.player walk speed back to the original player walk speed. And then we might have, it still looks fast. If input list is 2, self.player.walk speed. Okay, so this isn't right. He's still going fast. Self.player. Let's make sure we've got player.walk speed. Yeah. Let me see if we put in a tiny value here. If it changes our walk speed, and it doesn't. So I think it's because we're updating our player based on the walk speed up here first. So we need to change our walk speed before any of this stuff. So we can check that first and make sure we modify our walk speed before we modify our position, and then that should work. So we'll put normalized vector. Well, actually, we'll say if the number of our input list is equal to 2, meaning we're walking diagonally, then we want a normalized vector for our self.player, which should cut its walk speed. And if it cuts its walk speed before it updates its position, then it should slow down. And then otherwise, we want to reset our self.player's .walk speed to be equal to the constant player walk speed. And we lost our autocomplete for some reason. Walk speed. Okay, let's go. Let's see. It still looks too fast. Let me try to literally just say self.player .walk speed gets 0.1. We'll turn off this for now and just make sure our walk speed is slowing down. Okay, so we are slowing down our walk speed forever. So if we turn this back on, okay, so walk speed does turn us slower, but and the thing is, I think we might need to divide this by 4 because our walk speed is being treated as our velocity, but both of our velocities are still being applied on multiple direction inputs, so I think we need to divide it by 4. So what we'll do is say, and that's why we remember our normalized vector function was dx and dy gets a halving of the vector, and that means them added together became our correct value. So I think we just need to divide it in half again. So what we'll do is call our normalize vector on our self.player, and we need to update the function to be divided by 4 instead. Shit, dude, he's still going fast. What? Why is he still going fast? We didn't even get to our map transitions yet, but if we can just figure this out, we can call it night. But dude, this doesn't seem to be changing anything. So what if we say oh hey practical NPC, thanks buddy. Hey, I really appreciate that. I'm a Kickstarter backer of Bemori, so hey man, that makes me really happy. Thanks for the raid, that's really cool. I'm here trying to fix the diagonal movement for my little character here. We're moving too fast. And actually it's looking better. Well, it's still looking too fast. I'm trying to get the right math in here. Hey, thanks dude. Yeah, I've been watching your stream most of today. It's really cool. Welcome everyone. This is the first time I've been rated actually, so this is really cool. Actually, my buddy 7arc rated me last. No, my buddy 7arc was watching the stream yesterday, but thanks for the follow, guys. I really appreciate it. We're wrapping it up. We got an entity system implementation for our character here to render our states. We have new maps. We have maps on the side of this. We just, since we did our new entity state, we don't have our collision detection to trigger those scene transitions, but we're working on getting those back as soon as we get our vector normalized for our diagonal movement. Hey man, it's going really great. We're about 2 weeks in, and I wish if I was in the state of 3 days ago, I could show you that we've got a 10 by 10 map grid all populated with different sprites and stuff, and we can walk to it and trigger it just like Link's Awakening. We just don't have that active right now because we gutted all of our logic there to implement an entity system to handle state machine change for our animations here. So now we'll be able to add more characters and be able to handle their animations and their states a lot easier now. So I'm really excited about that. And we're on the last step before we get our maps implemented back into the game. So I'm just trying to figure out why our diagonal movements are still moving us too far, because it's like, you know, if our velocities is 1 going to the right or left, it's a 1, going up or down, it's 1, but if you hold both inputs, it's going twice as far, 1.4 instead of 1. So we need to negate that change. I've been working with Love maybe about 2.5 years, 3 years. So I started with the Harvard CS50. So I can actually show you guys. I've got another repo here where I built a game in Love. This is probably my biggest game I built in Love. It's a Joust remake. So this has got I think 25 waves, and it's got a 2-player mode, and it's got animations, different what am I trying to say here? It's got 25 levels. I want to say like the lava raises on wave 2, and then if I get to wave 3 here and don't embarrass myself, I can show you that the platform goes away and then the lava troll comes out on the fire. And then I've got a high score leaderboard. So here's the platform attraction here, and there's the fire going out. So I did the first couple tutorials of the Harvard CS50 game dev course on YouTube, and they start with Pong and then they go to Flappy Bird. There's the lava troll that just grabbed me. So I did Pong, and then I went to Flappy Bird, and then after Flappy Bird, I kind of just said, like, screw it, I'm going to try to make my own game, like with the knowledge I had at that point. And then it took me almost 2 years to get this game done from scratch, kind of reverse engineering it. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and that's where I started streaming on my YouTube channel. So I would do, I wouldn't actually stream, but I would just record my sessions like I am now, and then just post them to YouTube. So it's only been the past 2 weeks or so that I've been streaming on Twitch. So I've been having a ton of fun with it. And if anyone wants to see the past devlogs I've got from any of my past projects, I've got over 300 episodes on my YouTube over there. So if you want to see Joust being made from scratch, it's all live on my channel over there on YouTube. But I'm loving Twitch, man. And I love looking at the software game development channel is just so cool to see people working on different stuff. So like I love coming to see your chat Practical NPC, to go see your Kickstarter and all the success with there, because it kind of shows that just how strong the small community is, for really passionate people like us who want to get into game dev. I think it's really cool. So yeah, dude. Yeah, thanks for streaming, dude. I really enjoy your stream. I watch you at work all the time. Or I should say listen to you at work all the time. But yeah, so we are close. I've been trying to focus on the stuff that gives us the biggest bang for the buck on functionality for our game. So in the 2 weeks we've got our like 10 by 10 grid levels of our animation and our map changing. We're just trying to fix the math for this. Like, you guys came in at like almost like a really boring part for me because I was trying to figure out why this math isn't working. So we're trying to, like we said, we're trying to normalize that vector for our diagonal movement so we don't get a velocity of 1.4. But now that I'm thinking, since our walk speed is literally just 1, we could just set our velocity to, I don't know the math for it. Because instead of 1.4, we want, I guess, just 0.5. We would want it to be half so that we would get a velocity of 1 walking diagonally. So maybe we go self.player.walk speed gets equal to 0.5 instead, and then the 0.5 plus 0.5 will equal our 1 total velocity. That's looking, is that looking a bit slow? Yeah, it's looking like we speed up. So I'm not exactly sure what the correct math is there. What is going on here? 0.7. Is that because root 2 divided by 2? Charles Cleven? I don't know why our stuff is getting jacked. But we've been trying to do that, but the tricky thing is we took this out and now we're still modifying. If both our directions are down, we're actually modifying by our walk speed 2 times. So I thought we would try to take square root of 2 divided by 2, put that into a function, and then just call the normalized vector function on our player, and it would be a self.player. But it's not really looking like that's the right. That's looking too fast. And maybe, I don't know. Because divided by 2, but then we're still, yeah, I would think it would be that, but it still looks a little too fast. Yeah, it still looks fast to me. So yeah, I'm not anywhere near as talented and hardworking as Practical NPC is, but I'm working there to get, longer streams or getting more consistent development done on my game. So I'm happy with where I've done in 2 weeks. And I could show you guys the animations for the other scenes and stuff. If I had those triggers working right now, I'm just in the middle of gutting all that stuff. Yeah, I wish I was a little bit smarter so that I can just fix this for you guys and maybe continue the stream and get that other map stuff working. But I am not getting the right values here. If we just try to limit our value, our walk speed to 0.5, self.player, that's looking a little too slow. So if we do what Charles Cleven said, or we just put in if we just take our square root of 2 outside of our function, maybe our function is just not working right. So that should be like 1.4, and then that divided by 2 should get us that 0.7. Okay, then why do we get all blurry here? Oh, our last input is being set to nil for some reason. Okay, so that's jacking it up. Okay, we get our default walk speed. If not, we get our square root of 2 divided by 2. We'll take this out. And we just want to see if there's any part where we put our input list. And actually, we do most of this updating over at. Yeah, man, game dev is a crap ton of work, but it's really rewarding. Like it's been really fun because like I said, that Joust game took me 2 years, and it's just it's a 1982 arcade game. It is more difficult than Pong, for sure, but it took me 2 years. So then I look at you and you've been working on your game, 3 years. So like that's really cool that a 3-year chunk of time for you is your game, Memory. Right now, a 3-year chunk of time is about Joust, but that's working, an hour or so a day on it. Not as hardcore as you. So if I keep it up, I can hopefully one day aspire to make a big, awesome standalone game like you do. Okay, we can take a look. I think in our... Actually, let's do a search for our input list assignment and make sure we shouldn't be inputting nil into it at any time. All right, we should always be putting the last input into it. Oh, and you know what? Yeah, we actually, if nothing's held down, we need to assign it a default last input. So it does make sense. If nothing's being held, then we are, in fact, having nothing in that table, so it would be nil. So we need to just populate that with maybe the last walking direction of the character, and then we'll stop getting that blurry end frame on there. So maybe we'll go and look at, let's see, we've got, okay, so I'm going to do a search for our input list here. Thanks for the raid, man. I really appreciate it. That's really cool. I've been loving the community here on Twitch. I've been falling in love with it, so I definitely feel the love, so thanks, man. Okay. So yeah, I think we just want to ask if our input list is nil, or if our input list has no value in it, we would want to give it our last walking direction. So I think we can do something like this, and we can say if not input list, then we want to go ahead and assign our input list to be equal to the self.player's direction, but that's not good enough because these are actually values of the walking direction. So the dot direction is just a left, up, right, or down, but we need to go self.player direction. We need to concatenate it with a walk. So we need to say it gets a string walk hyphen, and we concatenate that with a stringified version of our player direction. And then maybe input list will not be nil. It is still nil, so we need to do that better. And maybe if our input list is equal to 0, I think that's, yeah, maybe that's where we do it. Let's try putting it here. We'll assign it to be that string of the last input direction, and that's just crashing. So it's not that it's when it's 0, it's that when it's nil. So how do we ask when it's nil? I thought we can say if not input list, but maybe we just say if input list is equal to nil, then we go ahead and assign it that string. We're still nil. So something's not quite working. Look at that. It looks like he's getting blurred out for because he's on TV. Okay, we're missing something here in our input list handling, which we did just yesterday, so it should be fresh in our brain, but we're not doing it right. Let's see. Yeah, so anytime we press a button, we populate our input list, we insert the value of a string into the input list, and then upon a key releasing, we release that value from that input list. So either we don't remove it if there's only one value in it, or we assign it to a default value if there's nothing in there. So maybe what we'll do is we'll say if the number of values in our input list is equal to only 1, meaning that's the only input in the list, we don't remove it, but otherwise we would remove it. Maybe something like that. If input list is 1, so maybe we say the not is tilde equals in Lua, which is a little weird, but if input list does not equal 1, then we remove it. But that's not right either, because we need to remove it if we have multiple inputs, not just not equal to 1. So that's not right. Let's see if doing this would fix it, and then we can see if there is a better way to go about doing it. Because I don't like putting the code in the else block and like the first if statement being evaluated to nothing. I don't like that, but I'm just gonna see if that fixes anything. Okay, so that does inherit. Now our last input is not nil, but it looks like we've got the zoomies still. So I'm wondering what's happening there. Entity walk state, player walk state. Let's just take this off again, and just the player walk speed gets 0.1, and see if we go super slow, and we do. Oh, okay. So we started super slow and then we went crazy. So why aren't we super slow the whole time? We should be modifying our walk speed. We're super slow upon... Oh my gosh. Okay. Input list number is equal to 2. Okay, then walk speed gets that. Otherwise, we get our normal walk speed. So the diagonal movement should be slow, but then our normal speed is slow. Oh my gosh. We are really jacked up. Okay. We aren't changing to our default animation anymore because our last input is always defaulting to walk left. So that's not right. We accidentally broke a bunch of stuff changing our last input. There's a part of our last input that we just added that broke everything here. It's in our input list. Okay, we're not... Okay, and so I'm a new programmer. I mean, I've been teaching myself, so I don't stream because I'm good at it. I stream because I'm not good at it, if that makes sense. Like, it's kind of like it's an exercise in focus, really, because once I start recording, I'm like laser focused on what I'm doing, and it helps me have longer sessions of programming. So it's a habit I started doing last year, and then only recently been doing on Twitch for like the past 2 weeks or so. We don't want to do this method. What's so weird is our input list wasn't populating nil upon release until we actually added something to fix something else. So the fact that it's nil now is giving us these weird blurry stuff. And I think the instant we do that is from we oh, that's cool. Yeah, man, I really love programming. It's so difficult, and it's so difficult to get in the groove that the resistance is like really strong. So anything I can find to kind of keep me chugging along, and for me it's being on camera and like recording this session like it's my job almost, that I have to be like, you know, I'm not going to be on my phone when I'm at my job programming or whatever. Like if there's a live camera on me, so I feel like that really helps me. Okay, I want to say that the last input, and actually, no, we don't actually change it anywhere in our walk state. So it must have been broke yesterday and I just didn't realize it, that it was giving us the wrong value, because we're not actually changing. Oh, and you know what? It might be this line right here. We set our player direction to be equal to the last input. But that doesn't change the value in our last input list, so I don't imagine that fixing our nail problem. And in fact, it's because we have those differing keys for the input list that actually just crashes us. So I think this was broke yesterday and I just didn't realize it, because it'll give us the last input as long as it's down. So I think what we need to do is we need to set our idle frame not based on our last input, but based on the idle frame for whatever current walking animation we were in. So when we set, see if our input list is 0, we're and I'm curious if we turn this off, if those blurry bits go away. They do go away, but we remain in our movement. So it's like we just need a little flag here to say we only refresh this once, because right now we're refreshing this every time this input list doesn't have a value in it, and that's what's giving us that blurry business. So we need to just have like a little boolean we can change to just say if, like, let's say for right now, for sake of just testing it, needs refresh. If it needs refresh, then go ahead, refresh it. Right? So we'll say if needs refresh, go ahead and refresh it, change our state to idle, and then we will set our needs refresh to be equal to false, because it no longer needs a refresh. And then we need to become needs refresh anytime we have any input. So we can say if the number of our input list is greater than 0, then go ahead and set needs refresh to true. Therefore, whenever we let go of any inputs, our needs refresh will be true because we just had it set to true. We'll refresh it only once, then flush that back to false so that we don't get that blurry business. So we need to initialize this as false first. So we'll just put it up here and we'll just initialize it to false first, and then we'll see if that fixes our blurry business, which it doesn't. Shoot. It looked like it was working at first. Yeah, see, and this is all a problem of we really wanted him to have this little shuffle whenever we click it, because the animation wasn't resetting the timer. So we wanted him to take a little step with these tiny steps, which means we have to refresh our animation back to timer 0. But when we're doing that over and over, I thought it gave us our blurry problem, but it's looking like that wasn't the case. Needs refresh gets true if our input list is greater than 0. Then needs refresh will refresh our animations only once and set it to false so that we don't accidentally keep refreshing. So does that mean that our refresh animation is not what's causing our blurry bits? Or we're just doing it wrong? If we play nice and play only one direction, it doesn't mess up. It's when we have diagonal inputs and then let go that it's setting it wrong. So it might not be here. It might be in our animation handling here. But okay. So if left is down, we're setting our direction to left. We decided to add this multiple input handling because the animations wouldn't be right if you held more than one input. So we had to do this. But does that mean we need to change our animation to be walking now? And I think what might also be screwing us up is our entity class is getting updated. Let's see. No, I think it's our would it be our player? Oh, and you know what? We had defined normalized vector here in our player. I don't know if that might have been screwing up our function calls for that. But let's just remove that just in case. Everything in Lua, I think, is like global by default unless you explicitly call it local. So that might have been screwing up our normalized vector function call. I'm going to go back to our walk state and try to call that function again and see if it looks any different. So instead of deleting this, I'll just comment it out and I'll say normalized vector, and it takes in a reference to our player, which has a dot walk speed. So hopefully it'll be slowing down the walk speed. Okay. Well, so maybe it doesn't. Maybe our functions aren't global, but our variables and tables are. Okay. So our multiple input handling or our diagonal walking is looking better. It doesn't look too fast. So I think that's okay. It's just that we get blurry bits when we stop. And I'm not sure why. We're changing our animation to an idle. And let's make sure we're changing, if we've got no inputs, we need to be, maybe instead of refreshing, actually no, we do need to do that. But what if instead of just refreshing those animations to reset the timer to 0, we also change our idle state? I mean, actually, maybe... Okay, I'm gonna get rid of our needs refresh because I don't think that was working. And maybe what's happening is our... Okay, so we're not doing this anymore. We're not refreshing our animations. We fixed our blurry problem, but we got rid of our stepping when we tap it. So this, if our input list is 0. Okay, I'm confused why this isn't refreshing. Oh, we took out our change to idle state. So we refresh those timers and then change us back to idle. And that should allow us to have our steps back. Okay. Man, I really don't know why we're getting this blurry stuff. We can change our state. Like, let's just try to change our animation to be idled down across the board when we let go, just to see if that fixes our blurry business. So we'll say change animation to our idle down. It doesn't fix our blurry business. So something... sorry this isn't as interesting as practical, guys. But this is, this is the full glory of game dev, is just like staring at code, trying to, just saying, why is this happening? Why is this happening? That's been my experience in game dev, but it's really rewarding. This is just jacked. Okay, so if nothing is held down, we need to change to the idle state that is the direction that we were last facing. But if we manually change it, and actually we are doing that right now, we default it to, see how he always goes to standing up, even if he was right in the middle of a stepping animation. So it is doing that at the moment, but we're not able to refresh. We're not able to, and actually, no, that's looking right. Oh, God damn it, the blurry. I'm curious if we've got, I don't think our X position really matters for why it's blurry, but I'm kind of curious if oh, look at that. When we're on a zero, a fully squared out pixel, we were not blurry. So maybe if we just floor our X position upon inputs being held up, then we would fix our blur. So let's go ahead and math.floor. And the thing is, we don't want to willy-nilly floor it. We want to round it, right? So we would want to math seal any values that are higher than a certain position, and math floor any values that are lower than the 0.5. So we'll just see if this fixes our blur, and then we'll go ahead and worry about the proper rounding. But we'll put math.floor for our self.playerY, and we'll see. And this is something we did have. Okay. Hey, not blurry. So it looks like the blurry was a result of scaling our game, because if you take a look at our constants here, we can toggle the original window height to show you what our actual resolution is, which is this. So when we're playing the game, this is where how it's doing all the math right here. We're just using a library to resize it to a particular size that is bigger for human eyes. So it looks like the naked problem was because we weren't flooring our X position. Now, we The game is so small that even when we're truncating that last remainder, it doesn't look like we're getting weird positions. So I was thinking about rounding to the nearest fifth, or rounding to the nearest whole number instead of just flooring it. But I'm not really mad at this, so maybe we'll keep it like that. Yeah. So let's see real quick if we can get our maps rendering while people are still watching here. If we take a look at our player class and we go to our old logic down here, we'll see that we had a clamping behavior so that we couldn't walk off screen. But the interesting part is when we would call a function called begin shifting, which we would dispatch these events which render the next frame off. So here, this is what we want. If the scene view is not currently shifting, and I believe, let's see if our player class has reference to this scene view. It doesn't. So we would have to do this in our scene class. So let's say in our scene update, we're going to say if our scene view is not shifting, and we have to change that. We're going to put, and it would be self.scene. So if our self.scene is not currently shifting, then we're gonna check for input, because we don't want to scene shift unless you're holding the button that's triggering the event to render. So we're gonna say if our X position is greater than this right side of the screen, like it's a sliver. It's a sliver. It's like edge detection for when our character's there. We're gonna dispatch this event called a right transition or left transition or up or down. And what that is let's see if we can find the code for that, which should be, it looks like we define it here. I guess we only define it here. Oh no, this is where we do it. So this is our event listener. So we event dispatch, and then we listen for this event, which is going to set a reference to our next map. So it's going to grab from our local map tables. Let's just see if it goes. Let's see. Okay, we're not getting that right just yet. I think we have to update our scene, which we might not be doing since we gutted our system here. But we go back to our event dispatch, which is in, no, did we put it in our play state? Let's see, dispatch. That is the actual dispatch library. Dispatch. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry guys. I thought I was gonna be able to just patch this together so you guys could see the other maps, but I changed a lot of the code just 2 days ago, so I have to kind of dig through the play state machine rendering and make sure that it's all functioning correctly so that I can actually render the map changes, because right now we just aren't. I don't know if we're rendering the scene anymore in our map. Yeah, we are rendering our scene in our map, but we aren't, and we are updating our scene. So let me just see. Yeah, our scene should have. Okay, I I think the fact that our event listener is in our init function and our dispatch is in our update function is the reason why this isn't updating. So I'm curious where we used to put our event dispatch. I think it was in our player class actually. So if we take, yeah, and that makes sense because we're checking if a self.x, not if a scene.x. So like we've got to put this dispatch in our player function here, or player class. And then if we put that in our update right here, we should be able to hopefully, and this would be if not scene view shifting, then go ahead, check for the input, and then dispatch that event, and then that will hopefully update our maps. And we're crashing. Field height, a nil value on our player 89. That's right here, 89. Self.height. So we are not giving our player a self.height, apparently. So we can just go to our entity defs, make sure that when we give ourselves a player, we also give us a height, set it equal to 16, and a width, and set it equal to 16. And don't forget our commas. And then we're still crashing there. We might have to go into our entity class and make sure that entity also has a reference to these height. And yeah, we need to assign it right here. So we'll have a self.height that gets the height of our entity defs, which we can say def.height. And then self.width gets our definitions width. And then maybe we won't crash. Okay. Hey, we messed up the rendering, but those are the different maps. So we got that. We got to fix the character rendering for these different maps. And I've got some pixel art, I have like some randomly appearing bones or driftwood if you go out too far in the desert. So we'll have to make sure. And I think this is because we need to modify our offset X during the transition, because our player is still being rendered in the current scene. So when we shift this screen away, our player shifts as well. So we need to tween by the value of our new map's X position, because we go from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen, which our character does tween there, but our animation and our reference to the player is getting shifted way too fast. So we'll be doing that, but we won't be doing that tonight. I'm going to call it a night now, but I really appreciate everyone who was part of the raid party. That was really fun. And I hope I didn't bore you guys to death, but we'll go ahead and call that a night. We'll check our get diff here so that we can see all the stuff. And look at what I spelled this width so wrong in our entity def, and we didn't crash. How did that happen? Okay, we just width. There we go. And it's still wrong. Width gets width. Okay. I don't think that'll have an effect on this stuff, but yeah. Okay. So tomorrow I'll be getting this fixed again, so that we at least have we'll need to limit our players so we can't walk off screen like this if we're in quadrant 1-1 or whatever. So our map, see, we've got our map index there, map 3-1, map 2-1, so we've got a 10 by 10 of all our maps that we're populating with our sprites here. But if we're in the top row, we need to ensure we can't walk off the top of the screen, because otherwise walking off the top of the screen just gives you the next map. But if you're at the top row, it just needs to stop you. So we would get stopped right there. So we'll be adding that tomorrow, as well as fixing our player render for these scene transitions. And then once that's done, then we've got our entity system to add new characters. So we'll add NPCs, we'll add little animals. Yeah, man, Practical NPC, you are very welcome for the stream. Thanks for inspiring me and inspiring the whole community here on Twitch on the software game development side, because I always see you pop up, and it's just always awesome to see how active you are. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Okay, so we re-added in our scene transitions. We tweaked our entity defs so that we get our default animation different than the first frame of animation, which gives us the little two-step when we tap. We added in all of our player X and Y updates. We refresh our walk down and walk left animations, our walking animations upon letting go of an input, so that we can get our two-step properly working. And then that's just some debugging stuff. So today we added in all of our player X and Y updates, and tomorrow we'll be getting us back to having our correct player in the map. So he can walk and transition right, and he can't walk off screen if he can't literally walk off screen. So we'll say added player position updates, and then we'll get push it. But thank you guys. I really appreciate the stream. I really appreciate the raid here. If you guys are down, if there's someone on my stream here, I can raid my friend 7arc if you guys are down. He's a programmer who's been teaching me how to get the TMI.js for our Twitch chat. This is just a Twitch chat pop out, but I'm writing the code to handle like the bot and everything. So like he taught me how to do that. So I'm gonna raid him if you guys are down, and return the favor that Practical gave us. So I hope you guys have a good night, and feel free to give me a follow if you're interested. But I appreciate the love. Thank you guys, and I will catch you guys later. I'll be here tomorrow.